Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today I'm going to show you how to make these fun fall earrings, and the greatest thing about this is that you can make them out of scraps, things you have around your studio already. If you're a card maker, you probably have everything we need today. If not, it's a couple inexpensive supplies that you can pick up. So what inspired this project was some papers that I had lying around. Now, I did a class for Craftsy, and when you go to film, you actually have to have paintings done in different stages. So I had all these backgrounds and half-finished paintings lying around from that, because it's kind of like when you watch a cooking show on TV and they put a raw turkey in the oven, then 10 seconds later they pull out a cooked one. You know, they had that turkey already cooked. So you kind of have to have your painting cooked in all these different stages. And so I had all these different backgrounds and stuff like this. So what I did was I took a background like this, and I'm like, well, I'm just going to paint the back side, then I'll have a double-sided paper. So basically just taking some watercolors, I just painted a background. I just made sure that I used plenty of color. I also put in some aqua bronze. You could use mica powder if you want that shimmer. It's not really that important, but I'll just show you how to do that just in case. I know this is like such a quick version. I just like to tap a little bit on and then just add a little water to it because it's really glowy. It's really pretty. I'll grab a little more color too while I'm at it. So I just, basically covered the back side of my paper in similar colors. So I chose something that had some fall colors on it anyway. So I filled this up and I let it dry. I also wanted to mention that this was a larger piece of paper, and I just cut it down into narrow enough strips that I could put it through my Big Shot die cutting machine. So then what I did was I used some dies, and let me go grab them for you. These are by Doris. They have them on sale often at stores like Consumer Crafts, AC Moore, places like that. And I really liked these two sizes here because I thought they would be substantial enough that you could see what they were, but small enough for earrings. And since we're cutting these out of watercolor paper, they're going to be fairly stiff, but they're going to be really light because paper's pretty light. So this is what my paper looked like when it was all dry. I actually ended up going over, on the ones that I showed you here, I went over the back side too and added more paint, but it really wasn't necessary, so I would just do the one side. So it looked like this, and then I took those two dies and I positioned them on my paper and cranked it through my die cutter as many times as I could to fit on a piece of paper, just like this. So this is the piece that I've already die cut, and I have these left to do, and then these are the ones that I've already done. So here's how you turn these into beads. First thing you want to do is get a clear ink pad, or you can use a sponge with some vegetable glycerin on it. You can find that at a health food store or pharmacy. You could also use embossing ink. Basically, it's like a sticky liquid that's going to help the embossing powder stick to it. Now, I got a lot of questions last time I used embossing powder for a jewelry video because a lot of people weren't stampers. Embossing powder is basically a granular plastic, and you melt it using a heat tool. So if you're a stamper, you probably already have these supplies. Now, I like these little reverse grip tweezers because once you don't have to squeeze them for them to hold. Versus regular tweezers, you kind of have to squeeze them tight, and if you let loose, they fall, and you don't want that to happen to your bead. So what I'm going to do is just stick this in my container of embossing powder, and this is the Ranger Ultra Thick Embossing Enamel, and I like it because it's got bigger chunks. If you can see, it kind of looks like sugar. These thicker chunks of embossing powder will just make a thicker glaze, but we're still going to coat this several times. So I've got this held. You don't want to try to hold this with your fingers when you're doing this, otherwise you are going to burn your fingers, so you need to use something like this. And I usually would hold this over my floor or over a trash can in case any little pieces melted off, but I just wanted to make sure you could see the whole process here. I'm just going to go around. You can see it did blow off some of the little granules of powder. Then I'm going to stick it right back in here while it's still hot. And I'm going to keep doing this until I have a really good coating of the glossy stuff on here. You can see it's starting to pick up a bigger coat of it now. And you want to keep doing this until you get kind of a molten look on here. You can see it's starting to get a little molten there. And it will hold more powder every time. And it will melt quicker each time too. And the reason I'm showing you this whole step is that one time when I did this, people didn't understand how long and how many coats to build up. And this is the most time consuming. Oh! Don't do that. Don't hold your heat gun so close to your powder keg there. It's gonna blow it everywhere. But I just wanted to make sure you could really see the whole process. Don't worry if you have a little spot here and there that is not fully covered, because we'll deal with that later. Now you can see how it's molting, how it kind of wants to drip around. You see that? I try to tip it and try to get it an even coverage. And then you want to just hold on to this until it's dry. Or I found that I could take a like a little silicone cup, it's glossy on the inside, and I could actually drop this in there while I heated the other one up. So we're going to let this dry, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, and I really want to suggest that you do not heat your bead over your thing of embossing powder, because I do have embossing powder on everything now, but it's not that big of a deal, just to, you know, save you some supplies and a little cleanup time. So now I'm going to take a gold ink pad, and I am going to roll this paper along the edge. You don't have to do this, I just think it adds a little something, but again, it's completely optional. And if you didn't have embossing powder and the heat gun, you could use like a paint on acrylic varnish, something like that would be just fine, or a clear spray paint, or even nail polish, because you're going on paper, it will dry. So use whatever you have just to protect that paper. You need to give it a little protection. So now what I'm going to do is use some gold embossing powder. And I have some in a little dish here to make it a little easier to work with. I am going to use my my little tweezers there to hold that, and I just want to get the edges, and it's only really going to stick to where I have the gold ink that I just put on there. And now we're going to heat this up, and it should heat up a little bit quicker than before. And I'm again going to let it run so you can see how quickly it melts, or how slowly it melts, so you know what to expect if you try this. Oh, you get to see that too, don't you? Whoops, I'm leaving it in. I want you guys to know I am a complete gom, and this is like after practicing it quite a few times. But it does cool a little bit quicker when you just have a little small area you're melting. There we go. I needed a better grip on it. My pliers are getting kind of messy. Okay, and let's just melt the last bits of gold here. Now while this is really hot still, while this is kind of still molten on both sides, I'm going to put on some glass glitter. And this is really pretty. This is, I actually bought this last year. It's a Recollections glass glitter. And I like to collect it here on in the bottom of the thing so I can sprinkle it back over and I don't waste it. Don't put this back in your containers of glitter though, because this is going to be all mixed up. So you'll want to just put it in a separate thing that you use just for jewelry or something. And then to lock that down in, I am going to reheat, and that's just going to melt the powder again underneath it and just kind of let it melt into the embossing powder. It's just going to seal it in and trap it into that plastic. And there's no odor with this. If you are, if you're doing it properly, there will be no smoke, no odor. Sometimes if you use the embossing heat tools like from a hardware store, they're just so much stronger, and they can make it smoke because it's just heating it too hot. You'll want to either hold the gun away further if you're using one of those, or make sure you turn down all the way to low, one or the other, to solve that problem. Now we got to let this dry and we can build our earring. Okay, the first thing you want to do is grab your earring, and you can decide where you want to put your hole. You can put it at the top, you can put it at one of the edges, just depending on how you want it to hang. I think I'm going to do mine right there because there's a lot of space for the loop that we're going to be making to fit through. So what I have here is a very small hole punch. This is a 1/16 inch hole punch. You could use a pin or like an awl if you don't have one. And I'm just going to put a little punch about 1/16 of an inch from the edge there. And then I'm going to take this little thing. This is a 1-inch eye pin. You can see that. It's a very standard jewelry making supply. And I'm going to choose a bead. And since this has a lot of yellow and orange on it, I think this green would be really pretty. So I'm going to put that in there. I'm going to make a bend about 1/8 of an inch above the bead. Right angle bend. Then because I want to make sure I have room for that leaf to swing, I want a fairly big loop here. So I'm going to grab this fairly high on my round nose pliers, and then I'm just going to curl it back. Okay, and that gives me a fairly big loop there. See? Okay, and now I'm going to open this up, I hope this tutorial didn't take too long. I'm really wanting to make it real time so you could see what you're getting yourself into if you decide to start this project. Now I'm just going to put that wire right through the hole that I made. There we go. And then we're just going to pinch it closed. Never open this like a U. You always want to be twisting it closed, okay? You never want to like or open like that, or it's going to weaken it. So you can see that's going to hang really, really well and really jiggly, and that's what you want. And now we need to add a ear wire, and I really like to use the fishhook style ear wires. I find they're easy to put in, they're inexpensive to buy, and they just work really well for me anyway. I prefer these. And then what you're going to do is you're going to find where the split is, and if I look, I can see that this end here is unhooked versus the other side, which is not where the break is. I want to go where the break is and just give it a twist. Don't pull it open, you just do a little twist, and then you're going to put the loop that's on your from your eye pin there. So that little loop on the top of your bead, you're just going to slide that right on, and you're going to grab the loop on your eye hook again, on your fishing hook ear wire again, and you're going to twist it closed. You just want to make sure there's no gaps in there. And this is the earring that you've made. I think it's really beautiful, and it doesn't look like paper after you've done all this. Now you could totally use like chipboard. If you had like a cardboard box, like like the kind of cereal box weight that had really cool pattern on it, you could totally cut leaves out of that and do the embossing powder, and it would look really great. Be creative, use what you have. This is an idea. If you don't have the embossing heat tools and the embossing powder, use clear nail polish, use a clear spray paint, use what you have, because I think little recycled projects like this are great because it keeps you from throwing away good stuff. And if you're like me and you do craft fairs or you have a booth to sell things in, then you can actually make some money off of your scraps, and I think that's a wonderful thing. So hope you give it a try. If you have any questions, you can leave them in the comments below, and until next time, happy crafting!